And as always, we've been in the thick of it all, trying to maintain a sense of peace, a sense of connection, and a sense of groundedness as all of the world around me felt like it was in a whirlwind of change. And that is why I'm talking about my topic today, which are grounding practices. How can we ground into our bodies, into our breath, into this moment so that we don't get uprooted and thrown around? Also, I found out, side note, I'm also ADD if you guys didn't know, and this is just an example of that. Don't worry, I will loop it back. We will come back on track. I'm very good at that. Is Shino. So if you saw before, my name was Chino. My entire branding was really developed around my name and owning who I was and the kind of multifaceted parts of my personality being mixed race, Japanese, black and white. And really, I used to be really ashamed of my middle name. I used to be embarrassed of it when I was younger. And so I leaned into that when I first established my yoga brand. Anyways, I find out my aunt goes to Japan. I was named after my great-grandmother, who was, I thought, Chino. But in reality, in fucking reality, her name was Shino, S-H-I-N-O, not C-H-I-N-O. And Shino, it actually means the base of bamboo, which is extremely resilient and strong and grounded. Are you kidding me? And welcome to the Meeting Your Soul podcast. I'm Farah, your host, and I am so grateful that you're here. Thank you for joining season 2. It is official. We are in season 2 of Meeting Your Soul podcast. I decided to really conclude the first 70 episodes of the podcast because there was so much information. It was really more of this journey of me figuring out becoming a podcaster, my personal journey of everything that occurred. To be able to conclude that and then move into the next chapter only felt right, and especially with as much transitions as I've endured and has occurred over this last couple months, I felt like it was needed to really be able to wrap that up and to start anew. So thank you for being here. And I am delighted to be able to move forward, to really share with you all the lessons that I'm continuing to learn, the chapters of my life that are continuing to unfold right in front of me, and the immense amount of faith and connection to self and my soul as I maneuver through that journey. And that's exactly why I designed this podcast, to be able to share my personal experiences, the things that I've learned through positive psychology, through my advocacy work within domestic violence, sexual assault, youth suicide prevention, crisis intervention, my degree in psychology, like all of that wrapped up into also my spiritual practices and the meditation and yoga and being a life coach and a Dharma coach, someone who helps support people as they find their own purpose. Like all of these things have become into a culmination of what I like to share in this space to hopefully be able to support you as you pursue your own journey of self and understanding who you are on a deeper level, and hopefully from a more holistic and loving point of view. So thank you for being here. I am ecstatic to be able to go into today's topic, which are grounding practices. And I'll offer a little life update, which I was doing towards the end of season 1, which I feel like is helpful, and just also to give you a little bit of framework for why I'm talking about what I'm talking about. Because usually every episode truly is me just sharing what has been really helpful for me, while then I kind of like dig up some actual scientific research to support it, so that I'm not just like pulling things out of thin air, that you know that I'm sharing these things because they have been shown to be effective, not only for me, but for a large population of people as well. So life update. Within the last 3 months, I have changed jobs. I left real estate, stopped, hung up my license, which I never thought I would do. That's been a huge, and really let go of who that meant for me as a person, and that sense of identity that really helped me gain my independence and my power over these last few years. So that was a huge chapter in my life that I concluded that really affected me. Honestly, there was a major grieving process that went along with that. But now that I'm on the other side, I didn't fully see the full scope of where I was going to arrive, but I had faith that it was all meant to be the way it was supposed to. So Ended that, actually then was a case manager at a high school for a period of time. So I was actually working with high school students and mostly at risk high school students, which is honestly one of my favorite jobs. I'm still volunteering there because those are my dogs. I love them. If any of them are watching this, I sincerely love you guys so much, and they know that. So working with them on an ongoing basis was like probably one of the highlights of my entire fucking year. And I still plan to be involved with them to a certain extent, just not at the level that I was before. But then during that time, I got hired as the head of sales and operations for Hot Yoga Queen Anne and Chef Yoga Roosevelt, which are two studios that have been a huge part of who I am and how I've grown as an individual and as a yoga teacher. Where I started my spiritual journey, it has come full circle for me to come back and to be able to be running both studios as a manager has been incredible. It was a little bit of a doozy, learning my ropes of how the operations ran. It is, 7 days a week business that I am kind of fostering and like maintaining and handling. But at the same time, the owner, Leah Zachariah, who I've actually had on the podcast before, has been so incredible. She has put so much faith in me and has really helped support me as I've learned my way through it all, that I couldn't be more grateful. So I became the head of sales and operations. I left real estate. I then moved back to Seattle. The studios are both based in Seattle, so there was really impossible for me to be able to do both. And so I was forced to move back up here. Force is hardly the word. I love being in Seattle. It is like truly, I think, where my soul is the happiest. I was down in Tacoma as my daughter started kindergarten. She is still in kindergarten in Tacoma, so we won't talk about that. But we're making it all work, and we're kind of just finding a good rhythm to it, which has also been a large part why there's been a little bit of pause on episodes, because I had to get my bearings within life so that I was able to show up in this space from a really intentional and from a heartfelt sense of dedication and offerings that I felt like were valuable. So that's also why we moved into chapter 2 or season 2 of this podcast. I also, if you can see me on YouTube, I am blonde now. We went through a little bit of a full refresh of looks, but I also felt like there's so much change that had occurred within me internally that I wanted to be able to showcase and show that on the outside too. So gives you a little update on what's going on. And as always, we've been in the thick of it all, trying to maintain a sense of peace, a sense of connection, and a sense of groundedness, as all of the world around me felt like it was in a whirlwind of change. And that is why I'm talking about my topic today, which are grounding practices. How can we ground into our bodies, into our breath, into this moment, so that we don't get uprooted and thrown around? Also, I found out, side note, I'm also ADD if you guys didn't know, and this is just an example of that. Don't worry, I will loop it back. We will come back on track. I'm very good at that. Is Shino. So if you saw before, my name was Chino. My entire branding was really developed around my name and owning who I was and the kind of multifaceted parts of my personality, being mixed race, Japanese, black and white. And really, I used to be really ashamed of my middle name. I used to be embarrassed of it when I was younger. And so I leaned into that when I first established my yoga brand. Anyways, I find out my aunt goes to Japan. I was named after my great-grandmother, who was, I thought, Chino. But in fucking reality, her name was Shino, S-H-I-N-O, not C-H-I-N-O. And Shino, it actually means the base of bamboo, which is extremely resilient and strong and grounded. Are you kidding me? I'm like so fucking in love with it. I didn't even know. I found this out. My aunt told me. And then I was like, well, obviously I have to change all of my branding. Literally everything has to change. And so this has kind of prompted all of this. And then I was also going through this emotional change and shift. And so I was like, this is wild. This is all coming up at the same time. And why am I surprised? I wasn't. I fucking wasn't, because life always works out the way it's supposed to. And we always end up exactly where we need to be. So full circle, Shino is the new brand. It's my name. It's actually my name. It's what my name was supposed to be. I have to get legally changed. I'm legally changing my name too. But the grounding practices felt like for it to be my first episode, because with the change, it's also the groundedness that I need to maintain in order to feel more at peace and more myself and showing up in a really conscious way. So I wrote out some practices that I utilize on a regular basis, but have also been scientifically proven to be extremely effective for the masses. So it is rooted in science as well as personal experiences that I can share with you. And if you're like, Farrah, what are grounding practices? Don't you worry. I will explain more in the next few moments. And to just give you an idea, if you struggle from chronic inflammation, from heart disease, from diabetes, from depression, all of these grounded practices are scientifically proven to reduce the symptoms of all of those and above, okay? So this gives us an opportunity to reduce inflammation, improve sleep, heart health, reduce stress and anxiety, increase levels of serotonin and dopamine, and overall improve your sense of well-being and calmness and peacefulness that you feel within you. Grounding is necessary. We forget, even so, one of the most basic grounding practices, and there's no surprise that this is one of them, is literally walking around barefoot. If you think about a house that has a grounding wire for the electricity within the house, there's actually a wire outside of your house. I know this because I was in real estate, but it grounds it so that the electricity doesn't surge and that it doesn't short circuit. So we are no different, people. People are no different. We need things that ground us. We need things that bring us into the earth. We need to help dispel or displace and kind of like extract some of this extreme amount of energy that we have pulsing through us at all points in time. How many of you go to an office, walk with rubber sole shoes on, which don't allow us to release the electricity within our body and help us ground? We're never really connected to the earth. We feel so disconnected. We never even sometimes see fresh air. Like, it's wild to think about. Don't ever underestimate that we are animals, we are creatures, and we are from this earth. And so to be able to give yourself the opportunity to connect with nature, Japanese culture has done an immense amount of studies on forest bathing. You can look this up too. There is so many studies that talk about the benefits of just being immersed in nature and how it increases the dopamine and serotonin within our system, helps reduce anxiety, it helps alleviate heart disease, because it's allowing our body and our nervous systems to truly be at ease. If you're constantly in a state of stress, and if that's stress that we're making up within our minds because of anxiety or different things that are going on within our world, or there's like email apnea where you're like holding your breath when you're like about to read an email, and it actually then like triggers your nervous systems and brings you into a state of fight or flight and like increased cortisol levels in your body. Literally, cortisol is a stress hormone, and it is one of the number one ways in order for our bodies, honestly, to become depleted and for them to become, for health issues to arise. So all of this comes to say is simply being in nature will change that for you. I saw this like meme the other day, and it was this little kid, and it was just like laying on the ground, like playing in the rocks. And if you know me, and if you know if I'm overwhelmed, I will literally go and lay on the ground, or I'll go into nature somewhere. Like, I'll throw a blanket on the ground, and I literally will go and lay anywhere, truly. I do it all the time, probably too often. I do this, I've done this for years, and it's because it's scientifically proven to help. It is like, even just touching leaves, touching a tree, sitting in the grass if you don't want to fully lay down, walking barefoot in the grass, all of these things are benefits for your nervous system. And also, speak of when you walk around in grass in particular barefoot, you actually, a lot of our chemicals in our bodies and our toxins are released from our feet. So if you actually walk with chlorophyll is in grass, and if you think about it, it helps release toxins and clears toxins out of our bodies. So like if you do this on an ongoing basis, it actually then also detoxifies our system at the same time. So the amount of benefits that come from walking in grass are like unreal and also underestimated, because you're like, well, that's all I have to do. Yes, honey pie, that's all you have to do. Just go walk around in some grass and you'll feel better about it. Which I know when it's cold outside and it's like wet, we don't necessarily want to do that. So even just going for a walk, getting fresh air, doing something like that will also have some benefits to it. Or going into a space where you can just be in nature will also help you. Getting out of cell service, or even just getting out of a place where there's a lot of electricity what have you. Like however you can work it, go for it. There's a lot of parks. We're really fortunate within Seattle. There's a ton of parks around here, and I go to them on an ongoing basis. I spend at least 10 minutes in nature every day. So that's like my bare minimum. Obviously there's more benefits for longer periods of time that you're in it, but whatever works for you, I would say definitely try to infuse it within your normal routine if you're able to, because it will naturally just benefit you on all levels. So first grounding practice is to just be in nature, to spend time. Second one is a couple different exercises that you can do, mindfulness exercises that I've done for years. And one of them that I have done that I actually learned originally from Jay Shetty, but there's a lot of other people that talk about this one, is working through your 5 senses. So there's the 5 senses that you mark through. You go 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. So you just kind of walk through that within your mind, and that helps allow you to arrive in the presence. It takes like 5 minutes tops that you can do this, and it will completely shift your frame of mind, especially when you're feeling anxious. And like, I don't know about you guys, but like sometimes my mind can go down a fucking rabbit hole of scenarios that have zero connection to reality. I've shared this. Anyone that's listened to the podcast before knows what I'm talking about. Any type of like, my mind will just go on this rabbit hole, especially if I'm feeling like overwhelmed or really out of control about something. I'll like spiral and I'll like go down this like rabbit hole of like random scenarios. It's really bizarre, and I'm really trying not to do it. And these grounding practices help reduce the chances of me doing it. But if you do that, or if you notice yourself, like cognitive behavioral therapy is like a type of behavioral method that changes patterning by actually replacing one thing with something else that's more beneficial for you. So I used it when I was working for 1-800-QUIT-NOW for people that were trying to quit smoking cigarettes, but you can apply it in any way. So like if you are feeling overwhelmed and you notice that you're starting to feel triggered about something, taking like, if you feel like even like a tightness within your chest, or you start to feel your heart rate start to pick up, or maybe even you start to feel like a sense of anxiety start to wash over you. In that moment, having an established practice of what you can do in order to counter that will help you. Like there's just no way around it. It will actually then be able to pull you back in out of that state of mind, and hopefully be able to bring you into a more desired space. So if your mind's starting to run wild, taking a moment, like even just taking 3 deep breaths and then going through this exercise can be a great way to have like something in your tool belt when you start to feel overwhelmed. So again, we'll go through that again. 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, 1 thing that you can taste. Okay, so break that down, just dive into it, run through that in your mind, write it down, know that that's what you're going to do next time that you're feeling anxious. Or again, go for a walk. Be like, okay, I'm starting to feel overwhelmed. I'm starting to get like quick tempered, or I'm starting to notice when my mind's just like, I keep hitting a wall, I have brain fog. Go outside. Okay, I know when I feel this, I'm gonna go outside and take a quick walk. Or I'm going to do 10 minutes of yoga, or I'm going to like shake my body off. One of the other like anxiety practices and grounding practices that I saw when I was like researching this, that I don't personally practice, but I actually think would be really helpful. So it's the 3-3-3 method. So then it's identify 3 objects, 3 sounds, and move 3 body parts. So like noticing something that's coming up for you, or maybe you're having issues with a ex of yours. And so like, and anytime you hear about them or you think